Hey, it's Brian with the Midnight Mechanic. Today I'm going to show you how to remove the hood from your second gen S10. A lot of you guys might be thinking, that's simple, it's just a couple bolts, you take the hood off. It's a little bit more complicated than that because the bolts are not easily accessible. And if you just go into it trying to tear stuff up, trying to figure out how to get it off, you could mess it up. It's actually very easy to get to as long as you know what you're doing. So we're going to show you the proper way to do it. On a lot of cars, the hood hinge either bolts to the hood or it bolts to the fender where there's bolts easy to get to. It's normally either two, sometimes one, but most of the time there's either two on the hood or two on the bracket on the fender. This one's a little bit different. The bolt is hidden and it's got two bolts that hold the hinge together and it's hidden underneath this cowl cover. You can see here that this part of the hood hinge is actually welded to the hood. Underneath here at the pivot point of this hinge is where you're going to disconnect it. Right here on the cowl, there's this little snap that has this Phillips head screw. You're going to need to remove this and then you can easily access it. You can't even see it right now, but once you remove this, you can get to it pretty easily. There's a couple ways to get this out. It's a screw that's plastic and it goes down into this plastic insert. A lot of the times you can do this with a short screwdriver because there's clearance issues and you can just screw it off. Most of the time though, what I've found is that even if you can turn it, it won't come out like this. So the trick is you can actually take a flathead screwdriver and be careful you don't hit the paint and pop it up just a little bit to where you can get a needle nose or some other kind of pliers on it and then pop it off. Once it's off, I normally take this part out too, just to make sure there's nothing in the way. With that clip out, it's actually now loose. There's a clip under here that slides under this part of the cowl that just pops out. Under here, there's actually a spring clip that clips into a hole down here. So what you're going to have to do is pull up on this until you hear it come loose like that. Now it's completely loose. You can take this and pull it over carefully so that comes loose. Now you have to be very careful here with this edge so you don't get any paint damaged. But you can pull it up and just be very careful that you don't crack it and slide it out. You can see right there that spring clip. It might be rusted, but more than likely it's not. It just snaps down into this little hole here. If you're careful, you won't scratch it. Don't try to pry it because you don't want to damage your glass or your paint. It comes off very easily as long as you're careful with it. On the driver's side, it's exactly the same. Sometimes this will come off. More than likely, it won't. I always just like to pop these off like this because it doesn't damage it and you can reinstall it very easily, but it just makes it a whole lot easier. Now with that off, it's exactly the same. As long as you don't force it, it will not break. And you won't scratch it as long as you're careful. Just don't force it. That's the only thing that I can tell you. When you reinstall this, you're going to need to get that lined up with that hole. You might need to stick a screwdriver down there and just touch it a little bit. Don't pry because you don't want to mess up this glass. But that's that hole that you're going to need to get it in when you reinstall it. Before you remove the hood, you need to make sure that you remove the washer line and this ground strap for the hood. This is just a 10mm nut. Take it off and then put the nut back on the stud just to make sure you don't lose that. With this one, just carefully pull it out of the hole. Try to keep from breaking it. It has a little bit of flare on there to go in there. Just tuck that off to the side. Here's the nut and bolt that you're going to take out. They're both 13mm. Obviously, you're going to need to take the hood support rod off of the front or else it's going to pivot weird. It helps if you have two people. I only have me right now in the shop. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to unbolt one side, set it down here, and try to keep it away from the glass while I do the other side and then carry it off on my own. The hood prop rod is going to keep the hood up and keep it from sliding around too much once you remove those bolts. Now, it's easier with two people. You can hold the hood, take the bolts out individually, and then go ahead and remove this, haul it off easy. It's just me in the shop right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave the hood prop rod up. I'm going to take both these out, and then I'm going to drop it down as I'm holding it so I can remove it by myself. Now you see just how easy it is to get the hood off one of these. It's actually a lot easier than it is on a lot of other hoods once you get the parts off and know what you're looking for. These pieces on the cowl get very brittle, so as long as you take your time with it and be very careful, you will not break them and it'll be very easy. When you're removing the hood, be very careful that you don't scratch your fender or the hood or crack your windshield. Two people, you can do it really easily and safely. One person can get a little bit risky here and there, but as you can see, it's easy to do it yourself. The other thing we wanted to show you is, I know in the previous video, Joel showed you on the hood hinge how to line it up so when you reinstall the hood, it lines up in the proper location. You do not need to do that on this hood on this truck when you reinstall it. So here's the bolt that we removed from it. You can see it has this little collar on it. That collar will actually fit in this hole here for the hood hinge, and that will prevent it from getting misaligned. As long as you use the proper bolts, it will line up perfectly. Now, in order not to lose these, one of the things we always do is just go ahead and stick it back in the hole and just do it finger tight. That way you will not lose it because it's exactly where you want it. When you go to reinstall the hood, they're already sitting in the proper location. All you have to do is unthread it with your fingers and stick it back in. Just like we did with those bolts for the hood hinge, go ahead and put this little clip back here in the hole so you don't lose that either. These are very easy to lose, and if you lose these, the only place you can really get them is either online or sometimes at the auto parts store, but they're kind of expensive for what it is, so just go ahead and do this. That way you will never lose it. So hopefully this helped you figure out how to remove the hood from your truck. A lot of times you might get in a situation where you start a project and you go, I don't know how to do that. So look on our channel to see if we have exactly what you need. We try to make it as simple as possible and as clean and as safe as possible. So hopefully you like this video. If there's any other things you'd like to learn about, post down below in the comments. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Midnight Mech, TikTok at The Midnight Mechanic, and on all the social media pages, follow our business at Shuck Auto. And we'll see you guys next time.